People of Alberta must demand nothing less than the immediate removal of these individuals from public office. This must be followed by them being subjected to the highest force of our laws. We must also make it clear to the remaining elected members of the UCP government that their silence and their failure to act on this matter will only implicate them further as co-conspirators in this highest of crimes. We, the people of Alberta, must make it crystal clear to this government and to every future government that totalitarianism will not be tolerated in this province. Not now, not ever! Now the good news is that we still have a choice. We get to decide the next chapter in this story. Before us lie two options. We can continue to delay and put it off and wait a little longer and give them another inch today and another inch tomorrow until we are a completely segregated society where those who refuse to submit to their demands are cut off. They're cut off from access to education, from access to health care, from access to travel, from access to their finances, and ultimately from access to food. This is how serious this is, ladies and gentlemen. This is about our survival right now. The other option before us is that we collectively draw the line today and we say no more. We say, I will not comply. I will not submit. We say, I will not grant authority to anyone over our lives and over our bodies. Yeah. Thank you. We will not live our lives in fear. We choose love. We choose unity. We choose humanity. We choose freedom. Thank you. First up, we have Catherine from Lawyers for Truth.
How's everybody doing today? I cannot believe this turnout. Thank you for coming. So my name is Catherine Kowalchuk and I'm with Lawyers for Truth. And Lawyers for Truth is a small group of lawyers in Calgary and across the province who have been fighting against this tyrannical government and these ridiculous government measures for the last 9 months. For those of you who have already heard what I've had to say, I'm going to be repeating myself just a little bit today, but thank you, and thank you for indulging my message and the message of Lawyers for Truth. What the government is doing right now is about creating division and chaos. Has anybody read the current CMOH order delivered by Dr. Hee-Haw? Has anybody read it? I read it. It's 16 pages long, 7 pages of definitions. I don't know what happens on Tuesday or Thursday. What happens if I'm 12 or 18? I don't know what the heck is going on. Who else found Jason Kenney's message the other other day, and Tyler Shandro's message, difficult to comprehend. They want to divide us. Make no mistake about that. They want to create a situation of chaos so we don't know which way is up and which way to turn. You are smarter than they are. We do not have any more time. This is it. And you know what? This is where freedom starts. It starts with you. It starts with you showing up. And it starts with you taking responsibility for your own life. Thank you. So there are quite a few presenters here today, and I'm not going to try to talk too long, although I feel like I could talk for hours because there's just so much to talk about. But this is what I want to address to you today. I have 3 points. From a legal standpoint, the first point is privacy. Who enjoys their private information being kept private? I'm 46 years old, and I've grown up in Canada my entire life, and it's always been about democracy and the freedoms that we have and maintaining our privacy. The world that we have right now does not resemble anything that I grew up believing or knowing to be true. Businesses, the government has offloaded their dirty work onto you. All businesses, whether you're personal services or you're in the oil patch downtown, do not comply with this crap. How many times have we heard from not only Justin Trudeau, but from Jason Kenney, that privacy is sacrosanct and that they cannot implement a vaccine passport because it's private information and you cannot be asked about your private information. How many times have we heard that? So, my question is to Jason Kenney, what happened between July and now? Did the laws change somehow that we don't know about? No. Businesses, you cannot require anybody to provide any medical information that people do not want to voluntarily provide you. If you do, and if you deny somebody entry because they are going to respect themselves and not tell you about anything about their health status, be prepared to be held accountable. The other thing I want to talk to you about today is the mandatory backwards reverse vaccine passport that Jason Kenney has unleashed on all of us. I don't even know what it is because he refuses to call it a vaccine passport, but that's exactly what it is. It is my opinion that under the Criminal Code of Canada, under Section 265, that this is an assault. You must freely give your consent to take the jab. This is what we've been taught. This is what the law says. And this is exactly what they are not doing. So Section 265A of the Criminal Code states that without the consent of another person, he applies force intentionally to that other person directly or indirectly. Okay? Subsection 3 of that section states, for the purposes of this section, no consent is obtained where the complainant submits or does not resist by reason of A, application of force to the complainant, B, threats of fear of the application of force, C, fraud, and D, the exercise of authority. What do you think they're doing? They're exercising their authority by forcing people to make the very difficult choice between their jobs, between playing soccer, between playing hockey, going into any government or any public building. They are forcing you, instead of putting food on the table, to violate their own principles to take this jab.
That's a good thing that there's so many people that they came here to that.
If anybody is taking this jab under threat of their job or anything else, this is duress and this constitutes an assault. You need to understand that. Therefore, to the doctors out there who continue to promote this dangerous and harmful jab that we know nothing about, we have no idea what the long-term effects are going to be, how do you reconcile promoting this vaccine passport and justify this given your Hippocratic oath to do no harm? This requirement is also in direct violation of Section 7 of the Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms. Does anybody know what that is? Does anybody remember what the Constitution, the Supreme Law of Canada states?
Security of the person.
Section 7 of the Charter states, namely, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of the person, and the right not to be deprived thereof, except in accordance with the principles of fundamental justice. Which brings me to my third point. These masking, and let's not forget masking because that slave diaper is what started this nonsense. The masking and the mandatory vax requirements are in violation of the Charter. So over the past few days, I've been speaking with former Premier of Newfoundland, Brian Peckford. Mr. Peckford is the last surviving person involved in the construction and implementation of the Charter in Canada. Wow. So I've been talking with him, and he was reminding me of this. I asked him, what are your thoughts on what is occurring right now? When Section 1 of the Charter guarantees the rights that we have set out and freedoms subject only to the reasonable limits prescribed by law as can be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. That's what it says. So when I asked him about that, to elaborate on what the founders meant and expected by including Section 1 in the Charter, he said the following, quote, Section 1 of the Charter means that any override demands such action be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. At the time of its creation, we all thought that the interpretation of this section would mean that actions to override would entail extensive cost-benefit analysis. It would entail emergency parliamentary debate in all legislatures in the Parliament of Canada, calling to the floor experts of all sides of the issue, and only then to debate and consider any actions. This means that prior debate and consultation should have occurred prior to enacting any of the pandemic measures we are facing today. Instead, what has occurred is that the governments have used existing legislation in Alberta, the Public Health Act, for instance, and its regulations, rather than engage in full and open debate and engage in a full cost-benefit analysis. No government in Canada has referenced these draconian measures to the Supreme Court of Canada. And this is shocking, and these are his words. This is a shocking dereliction of duty. Deaths and injuries have occurred as a result of their decisions, with many studies showing the cure was greater than the harm of the disease. Who would agree with me? Does anybody know that we have our own bill in Alberta?
Yes.
Do you know that this bill requires that every law in Alberta shall, unless it is expressly declared by the act of the legislature that hasn't actually debated this, that it operates notwithstanding the Bill of Rights, be construed as applied as to not abrogate, abridge, or infringe, or to authorize the abrogation, abridgment, or infringement of any rights or freedoms in Canada as recognized herein and declared. Therefore, any order, mandate, or law must be applied in a way so it's not to abrogate, abridge, or infringe any of the rights or freedoms contained in the Bill of Rights. When the orders violate our fundamental freedoms and rights, they are abrogating their duty. None of these laws are subject or exclude out the Bill of Rights or the Charter. So your duty now, we know we cannot rely on the courts, and I've said nothing that I normally say about the court action that I'm taking as a plaintiff, suing the Court of Queen's Bench in Alberta and the Provincial Court of Alberta. But this is the final message. The courts are one mechanism, potentially, of fighting this. But you here today, you not